If you're over 60 and you've been told your blood pressure is creeping up, I want you to know something that might surprise you. There's a breathing technique backed by decades of research from institutions like Harvard, the National Institutes of Health, and universities in Japan that can lower your blood pressure as effectively as some medications. And I'm not saying this lightly. I've spent my career studying cardiovascular health and aging, and what I'm about to share with you is grounded in solid science, not trends or wishful thinking. Now, before we go any further, let me be clear about something. If you're currently taking blood pressure medication, please don't stop. This technique isn't about replacing your doctor's care. It's about giving you an additional tool, something you can do yourself, that works with your body's own healing systems. Think of it as adding another layer of protection for your heart and blood vessels. Let's start by talking about why blood pressure tends to rise as we get older. It's something almost everyone experiences to some degree, and understanding why it happens helps us see why this breathing technique works so well. As we age, our blood vessels naturally become a bit stiffer. The walls of our arteries, which were once elastic and flexible, lose some of that springiness. It's similar to what happens to a rubber band that's been stretched too many times. This stiffening means your heart has to work harder to push blood through your system, and that creates higher pressure inside your vessels. But there's another piece to this puzzle that's even more important, and it's something we have much more control over. It's your nervous system, specifically the part called the autonomic nervous system. This is the control center that runs everything automatic in your body, your heartbeat, your digestion, your breathing, all without you having to think about it. And this system has two main branches that work like a gas pedal and a brake pedal. The gas pedal is called the sympathetic nervous system. When it's activated, your heart beats faster, your blood vessels tighten, and your blood pressure goes up. This is the system that kicks in when you're stressed, worried, or feeling threatened. It's the fight or flight response, and it was designed to help our ancestors survive dangerous situations. The problem is, in modern life, this system gets activated far too often. Traffic, financial worries, health concerns, family stress, all of these things can keep your sympathetic nervous system turned on like a car engine that never gets to cool down. The brake pedal is called the parasympathetic nervous system, and specifically, something called the vagus nerve. When this system is active, your heart rate slows down, your blood vessels relax and widen, and your blood pressure drops. This is your rest and digest system, the state your body is supposed to be in most of the time. But for many of us, especially as we get older and deal with more responsibilities and worries, we spend far too much time with the gas pedal pressed and not enough time letting the brake do its work. Here's where breathing comes in, and this is where the science gets really interesting. Your breath is the only part of your autonomic nervous system that you can consciously control. You can't tell your heart to beat slower just by thinking about it, and you can't will your blood vessels to relax. But you can change how you breathe, and when you do that in a specific way, you directly activate that brake pedal, that parasympathetic nervous system. Researchers at Harvard and other institutions have been studying this for years. One landmark study looked at what happens when people practice slow, controlled breathing for just 15 minutes a day. The participants were adults over 60, many of whom had been diagnosed with high blood pressure. After 8 weeks, their systolic blood pressure, that's the top number, had dropped by an average of 9 points. To put that in perspective, many blood pressure medications aim for a reduction of about 10 to 15 points. So this wasn't a small effect. It was clinically significant. What fascinated the researchers was how consistent the results were. It didn't matter if someone had been dealing with high blood pressure for years or if it was a newer problem. It didn't matter if they were on medication or not. The breathing technique worked across the board. And when they followed up with participants months later, those who continued the practice maintained those lower numbers. Japanese researchers found something even more interesting. They discovered that slow breathing doesn't just lower blood pressure temporarily while you're doing it. It actually retrains your nervous system over time. Think of it like exercising a muscle. When you practice this breathing regularly, you're strengthening that parasympathetic brake system, making it easier for your body to return to a calm, relaxed state, even when you're not actively focusing on your breath. The technique I'm going to teach you is called resonant frequency breathing, though some researchers call it coherent breathing or paced breathing. The principle is simple. You breathe at a very specific pace, about 5 to 6 breaths per minute, which is much slower than the 12 to 20 breaths most of us take when we're not thinking about it. At this particular rate, something remarkable happens in your body. Your heart rate, your blood pressure, and your breathing pattern all sync up in a harmonious rhythm. It's like getting all the instruments in an orchestra to play in perfect time. When you breathe this slowly, you're sending a powerful signal to your brain that everything is okay, that there's no emergency, no threat. Your brain responds by turning down that sympathetic gas pedal and turning up the parasympathetic brake. Your vagus nerve becomes more active, releasing neurotransmitters that tell your heart to slow down and your blood vessels to relax. Within just a few minutes, your blood pressure begins to drop. But it goes deeper than that. This slow breathing also improves something called baroreflex sensitivity. Your baroreceptors are tiny sensors in your blood vessels that constantly monitor your blood pressure and tell your brain to make adjustments. As we age, these sensors become less sensitive, less responsive. It's like having a thermostat that doesn't quite work right anymore. Slow breathing has been shown to restore some of that sensitivity, helping your body naturally regulate blood pressure more effectively throughout the day, even when you're not actively practicing. Let me walk you through exactly how to do this technique. And I want you to know that this is safe and gentle. You're not going to hyperventilate or feel dizzy. This isn't about taking huge, forceful breaths. It's about finding a calm, comfortable rhythm. First, find a quiet place where you can sit comfortably for about 15 minutes. You can sit in a chair with your feet flat on the floor and your hands resting in your lap, or you can sit on the edge of your bed. You want your back relatively straight but not rigid. This isn't about perfect posture. It's about being comfortable enough that you can focus on your breathing without distraction. Close your eyes if that feels comfortable, or simply lower your gaze to a spot on the floor in front of you. Take a moment to notice how you're breathing right now, without trying to change it. Just observe. You might notice your breath is shallow, up in your chest, or maybe it's irregular. That's completely normal. There's no judgment here. Now, we're going to establish the rhythm. You're going to breathe in through your nose for a count of 5, and then breathe out through your nose or through gently pursed lips, if that feels better, for a count of 5. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. That gives you 6 complete breaths per minute. Let's try it together. Breathe in slowly through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Feel your belly expand gently. And now breathe out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let your belly fall naturally. The breath should be smooth and quiet, like a gentle wave rolling in and rolling out. As you breathe in, imagine you're filling your lungs from the bottom up. Your belly expands first, then your rib cage, then finally your chest. It's the opposite of how most of us breathe when we're stressed, when we tend to breathe shallowly into just the upper chest. This deep diaphragmatic breathing massages your vagus nerve with each breath, amplifying that calming signal to your brain. As you breathe out, let the breath leave slowly and completely, but don't force it. You're not trying to empty your lungs aggressively. Just let the air flow out naturally, the way water drains from a basin. Some people find it helpful to imagine they're breathing out through a thin straw, creating just a little bit of resistance that naturally slows the exhale. Continue this pattern, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. If 5 seconds feels too long or too short, you can adjust to 4 seconds or 6 seconds. The key is finding a rhythm that feels sustainable and comfortable. You should never feel like you're straining or gasping for air. This should feel peaceful, almost meditative. What's happening in your body right now is profound. With each slow exhale, your vagus nerve is sending signals to your heart to slow down slightly. With each inhale, those signals ease off just a bit, and your heart rate picks up slightly. This natural variation in your heart rate with your breathing is called respiratory sinus arrhythmia, and it's a sign of a healthy, flexible nervous system. When you breathe at this resonant frequency, you're maximizing this variation, giving your cardiovascular system a gentle workout that improves its overall function. Your blood vessels are also responding. As your parasympathetic nervous system becomes more active, the smooth muscle in your artery walls begins to relax. Your vessels dilate slightly, opening up more space for blood to flow. It's like widening a highway. The same amount of traffic flows with much less pressure and stress on the system. After about 3 to 5 minutes of this breathing, most people start to notice a shift. You might feel a sense of calm spreading through your body. Your shoulders might drop away from your ears. Your jaw might unclench. Some people describe a feeling of warmth or heaviness in their limbs as their blood vessels relax and blood flow improves. These are all good signs that your technique is working. Continue for a full 15 minutes. I know that might seem like a long time at first, especially in our busy lives where 15 minutes feels like a luxury. But this is an investment in your health that pays immediate dividends. If 15 minutes feels overwhelming when you're just starting out, begin with 5 minutes and gradually work your way up. 5 minutes of this breathing is still beneficial. 10 minutes is even better. But the research shows that 15 minutes is where you really start to see those significant, lasting changes in blood pressure. You can practice this once a day, or if you're dealing with particularly high blood pressure or high stress levels, you can practice it twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening. Many of my patients find that doing this breathing practice first thing in the morning sets a calm tone for the entire day. Others prefer to practice in the evening as a way to unwind and prepare for restful sleep. Now let's talk about what you can expect as you make this a regular practice. In the first few days, you'll likely notice that you feel calmer and more centered during and immediately after your breathing session. You might find it easier to handle stressful situations. That's your nervous system starting to shift, beginning to favor that parasympathetic brake over the sympathetic gas pedal. After about a week, many people notice they're sleeping better. This makes sense because the same nervous system that controls your blood pressure also influences your sleep quality. When you strengthen your parasympathetic response, you're making it easier for your body to shift into that deep, restorative sleep state at night. After 2 to 3 weeks of consistent practice, this is where you start to see changes in your blood pressure readings. If you're monitoring your blood pressure at home, which I highly recommend, you might notice that your numbers are starting to trend downward. They might not drop dramatically all at once. This is a gradual process, but you should see a steady improvement. By 6 to 8 weeks, the research shows this is when the most significant changes occur. Your nervous system has been retrained. Your baroreceptors are more sensitive. Your blood vessels are more flexible. And importantly, these changes start to persist even outside of your practice time. Your resting blood pressure, the baseline level when you're just going about your day, begins to settle into a healthier range. I've had patients tell me that after a few months of this practice, they feel like they've rediscovered a part of themselves they'd lost. One gentleman in his late 60s told me he hadn't realized how much tension he'd been carrying in his body for years until he learned to breathe this way and finally felt what true relaxation was. His blood pressure dropped from 140 over 90 to 120 over 75, and he said he felt 20 years younger. Another woman, she was 72, had been on 2 different blood pressure medications and was still struggling to get her numbers under control. She started this breathing practice alongside her medication, and within 3 months, her doctor was able to reduce one of her medications. She continued the practice, and 6 months later, she was down to just 1 medication at a lower dose, something her doctor hadn't thought would be possible. Now, I want to be realistic with you. This breathing technique is powerful, but it's not magic. If you have severely elevated blood pressure, you're going to need medication, and that's okay. Medicine saves lives. But even if you need medication, this breathing practice can make that medication work better and potentially allow you to take lower doses. And for those of you whose blood pressure is in that borderline range, this might be exactly what you need to bring those numbers down without adding another prescription to your routine. The beauty of this technique is that it has no negative side effects. You're not putting any foreign substance into your body. You're not risking drug interactions or complications. You're simply working with your body's own built-in systems for regulating blood pressure and stress. It's always been there, this ability to calm your nervous system and lower your blood pressure through your breath. You just needed to know how to access it. I also want you to know that the benefits extend beyond blood pressure. Patients who practice this breathing regularly often report improvements in anxiety, better focus, and mental clarity, reduced chronic pain, improved digestion, and a greater overall sense of well-being. This happens because you're not just treating one symptom. You're addressing the underlying state of your nervous system, and when you do that, your whole body benefits. As you get older, it's easy to feel like your body is betraying you, like things are breaking down and there's nothing you can do about it. But that's not entirely true. Yes, aging brings changes, but you have more power than you might think to influence how your body ages. This breathing technique is one of the most powerful tools I can give you because it's something you own. It's yours. No one can take it away. You don't need any equipment, you don't need to travel anywhere, and you don't need to spend any money. You just need 15 minutes and the willingness to breathe slowly and deliberately. I've seen this practice transform lives. I've seen people who felt helpless and dependent on medications discover that they had agency, that they could actively participate in their own healing. And that shift from feeling like a passive recipient of medical care to feeling like an active participant in your health, that's just as important as the drop in blood pressure numbers. So I encourage you to try this. Starting today, find 15 minutes, sit down, close your eyes, and breathe. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. Let your nervous system recalibrate. Let your blood vessels relax. Give your heart the gift of working a little less hard. Do this every day for the next month and see what happens. Monitor your blood pressure if you can. Notice how you feel. Pay attention to your stress levels, your sleep, your overall sense of calm. And remember, you're not doing this alone. Thousands of people have learned this technique and experienced its benefits. The research is solid. The science is clear. Your body has an incredible capacity to heal and regulate itself when you give it the right conditions. This breathing practice creates those conditions. You've lived more than 60 years on this earth. You've accumulated wisdom and experience and resilience. Now it's time to give your body the care and attention it deserves. Your heart has been beating for you every single day of your life without you asking it to, pumping blood, delivering oxygen, keeping you alive. This breathing practice is a way to say thank you, a way to support your heart and your blood vessels as they continue their tireless work. Take care of yourself. Breathe slowly. Be patient with the process, and trust that your body knows how to heal when you create the space for it. Your heart will thank you. Your blood vessels will thank you. And you'll likely find that the rest of your life becomes a little bit calmer, a little bit easier, and a whole lot healthier.